Um, the Biden administration approves free crack pipes and the whole world goes to shit. So let's get started with today's edition of Everything Yesterday This Morning. Destroyer cannot deploy because the commanding officer won't get the vaccine. As we've discussed on the show multiple times, the ongoing legal situation regarding whether the military can force troops to get vaccinated has left the Navy with a warship they say they cannot deploy because it's commanded by an officer that they cannot fire. Judge Stephen Merriday issued an order last month banning the Navy and the Marine Corps from taking any disciplinary action against the commander and Marine Corps Lieutenant Colonel for refusing the vaccine. In the process, the case has raised questions about the lines between military good conduct and the legal rights of service members as American citizens. According to the filing, it states Merriday's injunction is an extraordinary intrusion upon the inner workings of the military. With respect to the Navy commander, the Navy has lost confidence in his ability to lead and will not deploy the warship with him in command. The filing alleges that the commander has already disregarded Navy regulations after he exposed dozens of his crew to COVID when he decided not to test himself after experiencing symptoms. So this article, and it'll be in the description, but the article goes through this back and forth where one of his subordinates comes into his office and he could barely speak. So his commanding officer asked him, how are you feeling? And he's like, well, I got a sore throat. And the commanding officer ordered him to go get tested, and it turned out he had COVID. The statement of the commanding officer's council, though, says they say they've lost confidence in his ability to lead his crew, but they sent the ship out for drills. The Navy's feigned loss of confidence in the commander is patently and pretextual and has everything to do with the commander's lawful and orderly attempt to obtain judicial relief from an unconstitutional mandate. The ship was underway for more than 300 days during the 400 pandemic days when no vaccine was available with no operational impediment. If there is injury to the Navy from shutting down the commander's ship, it is self-inflicted and intentional. I told you guys, they want that part of the order removed just so they can punish people. It has nothing to do with anything else. Saudi and Emirate leaders decline calls with Biden during the Ukraine crisis. Persian Gulf monarchies have signaled they will not help ease surging oil prices unless Washington supports them in Yemen and elsewhere. The White House unsuccessfully tried to arrange calls between Biden and the de facto leaders of Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, as the U.S. was working to build support for Ukraine and contain a surge on oil, and both declined. They've become more vocal in recent weeks in their criticism of American policy in the Gulf. The Saudis have signaled their relationship with Washington has deteriorated, as I've mentioned previously, and they want more support for their intervention in Yemen's civil war, help with their own civilian nuclear program as Iran's moves ahead, and legal immunity for Prince Mohammed in the United States. This is also interesting in relation to the fact that Poland has shifted the risk of giving the MiG-29 fighter jets to Ukrainian fighters and instead gave them to the United States yesterday, allowing the United States to work out the logistics of getting them to the battlefield and to deal with the consequences of Russia. But our NATO allies and partners are more united than ever at this point. It's starting to look more and more like the United States is going to be left alone. Guy Reffitt, I'm not sure how you say his name because I never know how to say anybody's name, is the first January 6th rioter to go to trial and was found guilty on all counts. The first defendant to take his case to trial was found guilty on all charges related to his role in the attack on the Capitol. Guy Reffitt, a Texas man who tried to storm the U.S. Capitol while armed with a gun and zip ties, was convicted on all 5 counts. I don't have the counts, but I think they're in the article, including transport of a firearm in support of civil disorder, and obstruction of an official proceeding. The jury met for barely 2 hours before it informed the judge that it had reached a verdict. They heard testimony from his teenage son, Jackson, who tipped off the FBI about his father before the January 6th attack. Prosecutors, quoting the elder Reffitt's own words, argued that the defendant had, quote, lit the match on the west side of the Capitol, where some of the most brutal attacks on law enforcement took place. The ADA in charge of the FBI's field office said, today's guilty verdict in the first jury trial of a January 6th defendant should serve as a reminder for others who committed crimes at the Capitol that day that these are serious charges and that the FBI and our law enforcement partners will do what it takes to hold them accountable. Reffitt's wife was quoted as saying, this fight has just begun. Guy was used as an example today to make all the January 6ers take a plea. Do not take a plea. Do not. We got this. Her husband was just convicted on all 5 charges, but we got this. Here's the thing about this. I'm not even going to go there. January 6th is what January 6th is at this point. If you visit my website and read my latest article, you'll hear my opinions on January 6th, or you'll read them. South Korea fires on North Korean patrol boat in waters both countries claim. South Korea says it fired warning shots at a North Korean patrol boat that temporarily crossed the country's disputed western sea boundary while chasing an unarmed North Korean vessel. South Korean military officials seized the North Korean vessel being chased by the patrol boat and were questioning its 7 crew members. South Korea's Navy has often fired warning shots to repel North Korean vessels, but there have also been some deadly clashes over the years. North Korea does not recognize the line and insists upon a boundary that encroaches deeply into waters currently controlled by the South. A friend is stationed in South Korea and said that this didn't even make a blip on the radar as South Korea's hotly contested election was yesterday. Clashes between major candidates over whether South Korea should continue pursuing engagement with North Korea or take a harder line to check its nuclear threat. Biden is to sign an executive order, it's actually going to happen today, on regulating issuing cryptocurrency, regulating and issuing. This week, Biden is signing an executive order, I cannot talk, on cryptocurrency that will direct several federal agencies to investigate and develop policies and regulations on digital currencies. It will reportedly outline what the federal agencies, including the Treasury, State, and Commerce departments, need to do to develop regulations and policies on the crypto market. The order will also ask the State Department to make sure that the American crypto laws align with those of U.S. allies. It will also reportedly task the Financial Stability Oversight Council, which identifies risks to the country's financial stability, investigate any financial concerns. I'm going to read that one more time. It will reportedly ask the Financial Stability Oversight Council, which identifies risks to the country's financial stability, to investigate any financial concerns. I can't imagine that institution, first of all, that it even exists, but that it will have enough time to look into cryptocurrency. I would think that they'd be way too busy investigating the Federal Reserve. It will also request the Justice Department to look into whether a new law is needed to create a new currency. Laws and laws and more laws. It's funny when you try to decentralize how much the government thinks that they need to get involved at this point. The order comes amid concerns over whether Russia could use cryptocurrency to get around the crushing U.S. sanctions issued. We will continue to look at how the sanctions work and evaluate whether or not there are liquid leakage. I swear I'm not drinking. It's laughable at this point that there are not liquid leakages, and we have the possibility to address them, Janet Yellen, who's the Treasury Secretary, said last week. I often hear cryptocurrency mentioned, and that's a channel that needs to be watched. If I told you guys on my show already, Putin has already made he's not stupid. He already made the moves necessary to circumvent these sanctions that were placed on him. So the only people that these sanctions are hurting are the citizens of Russia and around the world, based off of what I'm seeing. So anyway, DC experiences the largest population decline in the United States by 2.9% between July 1st of 2020 and July 1st of 2021. I wonder why. New York State had the second largest decline in population for that year with a decline of 1.7%. I wonder why. The report revealed that consumers are not moving to the East Coast as much as they have in previous years. Idaho was the fastest growing state. And in 10 years, so between 2010 and 2021, the population in Idaho has grown 21.2%. The Pentagon orders the permanent closure of the Red Hill fuel storage facility. The Pentagon ordered the close of the facility months after a fuel leakage from the underground tanks into the water supply in Oahu. The decision came after consultation with senior civilian and military leaders. No later than May 31st, we will provide an action plan for safe and expeditious defueling of the facility with a completion date target of 12 months. Then, as soon as we've made corrective actions to ensure the defueling will be safe, we will begin. The fuel will be repositioned to land and afloat locations. This will meet national security objectives by better positioning the United States to meet future challenges in the Pacific region while ensuring environmental stewardship and protecting the population. This was a statement given by Lloyd Austin's office. The fuel tank leak affected thousands of residents on Oahu and cost $347 million, in which includes temporary lodging, meals, and expenses of affected families, businesses, and other entities. Putin orders a ban on Russian exports and imports. Russia is a major exporter of commodities, including oil, gas, wheat, and metals, and over 75% of the United States fertilizer that we use. The full list will be determined by the government and will ensure the security of the Russian Federation. Meanwhile, Joe Biden has requested $2.6 billion to promote gender equity worldwide. As a nod to International Women's Day, which is stupid, by the way, the funds will be part of his 2023 budget. Does anyone in Washington even know what the word budget means anymore? His request to Congress will double the amount requested for gender programs last year, and Biden said, ensuring that every woman and girl has that chance isn't just the right thing to do. It's also a strategic imperative that advances the prosperity, stability, and security of our nation and the world. Yet, too often, in too many places, women and girls faced obstacles that limit their possibilities and undermine their position and participation in economic, political, and social life. Priorities, people. No one limits me except myself. So I am offended by the idea that I need billions of dollars to help me get where I want to be in life. I'm right here doing my own everything yesterday, this morning show for you people because I want to and because I can. I love you guys. You have a great day. See you tomorrow.